Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, I don't know where you are. Welcome to interview number 2. I still don't know what to call this. I'll think of something. If you have ideas, please just drop it in the comment section or send a message through whichever social channel you wish to. So this is interview number 2 with Shivani Persad. She is an international model coming back and forth from New York, Toronto, over to here, which is when we caught up. The first time we met was over in Toronto. That was good fun. We managed to get a 45-minute portrait shoot done in a very random car park. It sounds dodgy than it was. It was fine. The pictures are actually linked below. They're now on my portfolio. And yes, I hope you enjoy this. This is interview 2. Here we go. Okay, so today we have Shivani joining us from Toronto, who's thankfully here, and I don't have to go there, but it's cold. So, could you give yourself a quick intro as to who you are, what you do, and then we'll get into the questions.
Okay. Do you want me to look at you or look at the camera?
Either way.
Okay. Well, explaining to you would be weird because you know me. But hi, I'm Shivani. I'm a model. I'm 27. I live in New York City, and I've been modeling for 7 years. So I started a little bit later because I was in university, finishing up 2 degrees, which I'm so happy to be done. Yeah, I started modeling when I was 20, and I didn't start fully doing it until I was 23, like full time. So it's been 4 good full-time years now. And also as a result of modeling and being in New York, I think, there's a lot of like political things that happen, and there's a lot of activist type situations that you end up getting in when you're a model. And if you're into that kind of thing, you can become an activist or, just somebody who gives a shit about stuff really fast, which is what happened to me. So because like one of my degrees is in political science, I was always interested in politics, but then being a model made me get interested in things like, diversity and sexual harassment and, labor protections and things like that. So now I'm also on, I'm on the advisory board for the Model Alliance, which is great because I get to do awesome things like research for them and work on policies that like actually go to like the New York State government and stuff. And I also have my own podcast called More Than Model Radio on iTunes, where I interview a different girl every episode. And we just talk about modeling to a certain extent, only if it has to do with like adversity within modeling. But we mostly talk about the girls themselves, because I really started that podcast because I was so sick of people leaving me out of important conversations. So we're just really trying to get rid of that stigma that models are like stupid or they only care about like clothing and fashion. And so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
All right, cool. So I'm just going to pick up on a few things that you mentioned there.
Okay.
So for those who don't know, what is the Model Alliance?
The Model Alliance, good question. The Model Alliance is, the Model Alliance is the union basically for models in New York. So there was never a union before. And then my friend Sarah Ziff, who's the founder and like director of the Model Alliance, she just was experiencing so much adversity in the workplace. And so there's so many things like, nothing in our industry is regulated. Mm-hmm. And so she just was going through so many things that she was like, what the hell? There has to be some kind of like regulatory body for this, because like people are just taking advantage of us. And so she just created it herself. And
in what way were they taking advantage?
Different things like, there's so many issues with modeling. Obviously, sexual harassment is a big one. Also, payment is a really big one. And then also just like, there just not being any regulation in terms of like, okay, overtime or, an editorial rate versus a commercial rate versus this girl's rate versus that girl's rate, or like, longevity of modeling. Like sometimes people just stop and then it's like, okay, well, I didn't finish high school because you told me I was going to be a supermodel and now I have nothing to fall back on. Like just so many things, right? Mm-hmm. So she was like, there has to be some kind of a body where we can create like labor protections for girls and provide like service and support in some kind of essential organization.
I see. Right, so that would be really useful here because I don't think there's anything like that in London either.
There isn't in London in terms of labor protections, like in terms of an actual like policy type like charitable organization. Mm-hmm. But I have a couple of friends that run this little, I don't know if you would call it an organization, but they run a group called Model Village. Okay. And that's like a really cool community for models. Like I was a part of it when I was here. But that's more like for fun stuff. Like they do like events or you club stuff, or you can get free meals here or whatever. There's like a central hub kind of thing, but it's not really like a
That's a bit like
politics thing.
Those benefits are a bit like the Into app.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So I was trying to pick one of the things you mentioned in your intro because there was a lot of things. Right, let me think. So you mentioned that you did 2 degrees.
Yes.
Right, so what were the 2? One was political science?
Yeah, so I have an honors degree in political science and a bachelor's degree in French.
Cool. So how did the political science, like what happened in New York at the time to make you use your platform? Like how did you merge the 2? Like what was the trigger?
So many things. I mean, I guess being like a person of color in this industry, you notice a lot of things, and studying politics made me realize that like politics is everywhere and politics is in everything.
Yeah.
And as you can try to stay away from it, but you can't.
Yeah.
Then one of the things that I loved about it and one of the reasons I wanted to study it was because I noticed it's one of the things that like you just can't get away from it. Because even if you have no opinion, like you fall somewhere on that spectrum. Everybody does.
Yeah.
And that influences like every decision you make in your life. It's who you are, right? So that really began with me realizing like how I was being treated differently in this industry because of my skin and because of how I look.
Right.
And because I'm not like, you know, a conventional or your average like blonde hair, blue eyed model or whatever. I'm also not your average size or shape for a model either. So I was just noticing how I was getting treated differently and, you know, kind of where that puts you on the hierarchy of things. And in any hierarchy, obviously there's power. So that kind of just came, politics just kind of slowly started feeding its way in. And then, you know, diversity became a really big thing in our industry, which was great. But I wanted to make sure it was like longevity in diversity, not just like tokenism, you know?
Yes.
So that's how I started getting involved in sort of like advocating for the brown girl type of thing. Like whenever I do things or whenever something great happens, like if I post on Instagram, I always say like, this is for my brown girls, because when I was growing up, I didn't have anybody that looked like me to look at. Like, it was like, I was really into like Tyra Banks and Naomi Campbell and those girls because like they, at least their skin color was somewhat like mine, you know? But there wasn't really an Indian girl. And even when I used to watch, I did like Bollywood dance for like 10 years of my life. And even when I did that, you know, all those girls are super white.
Yeah.
Like they're Indian, but their skin is so light. So that's why like Kajol was like my favorite actress ever because she at least kind of looked like me, you know? And so those kind of things can lead into these activism roles, advocacy roles, sorry. And in Toronto, there wasn't really a space for that. But in New York, it's such a political city. There was so many events and panel discussions and workshops and stuff. So that started getting me involved in that at like an advocacy level, which eventually turned into activism with models becoming so powerful now as like influencers and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's something I might touch on later because with social media coming in, it's just a very different, I don't want to say a different game because you have the models.
But it is a different game, yeah.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It is.
Because, I mean, do you see a difference in how influencers are treated versus like just straight models who aren't using their platform for influence? Is that really anything that tends to happen?
Yeah, I think so many companies now I'm noticing are preferring models who do something other than modeling.
Yeah.
So like Nordstrom just did a campaign where like they were in the casting brief specifically asking for girls who are activists, girls that run their own business, girls who not only have a good following but also like are interested in things.
Yes.
Right? And like I just did a campaign for the makeup company for Bare Minerals, which is my second campaign for them, but this time they had me shortlisted and I saw all the lists of girls and like all the lists of girls they had shortlisted were like all of them were on my podcast.
Right.
So because like they were just all looking for girls who like do something different. And so I think they're really looking to inspire now a lot. So it's less about how you look and more about, you know, who are you as a person? What's your personality? What are you doing to try to change the world? Like that's becoming more of like a real thing.
Yeah, because you can't just take pictures at face value anymore because
the
internet is such that if they figure out that the person who's behind their campaign just is not legit in what they're saying, it's not great for the person who just hired them to start with.
Right, and people question everything these days, and it's so easy for people to find out your BS. So
yep, everyone has skeletons.
So you can't BS anymore. Even these large companies, like I mean, look at what's happening with H&M right now with that African American child in the sweater. Did you see?
I heard about this yesterday.
Yeah.
Didn't get any details. fill me in.
Okay, so basically there is he's a black kid wearing a sweater that says like coolest monkey on the block or something.
Oh, no.
And it's just like, how, in what world
Did that pass?
did you think that was okay? Yeah, and it must have been somebody like who isn't a person of color, because a person of color, I would hope, would be like, there's some historical negative connotation happening there. Like, it's not okay. And it's not really for someone like me or you to comment on, in a sense, because like that doesn't affect our community. In the sense that like, because like, yes, we're of color, but we're not black. So it's like, it's intersectional, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, like it's very obvious that that's just like not politically correct to do.
Yeah, that's just too,
I mean, it's literally...
Common sense would have kicked in,
But it's literally like having a white kid in a sweater that says something about a cracker. Like, you can't do that, Like, it just doesn't... It's like the whole Kendall Jenner Pepsi thing. Like, how did this go through so many levels before somebody said, that might be incorrect? And now they're getting blasted for it. And like, it's a huge company. Does it really matter in the long run? Maybe not, but people are noticing. And
that's right. And sometimes you have to question, are they sometimes doing this deliberately just to get
attention? Maybe. Who knows? You never know anymore.
That is the problem.
Yeah.
That is
fake news.
One.
Yeah, you never know.
I hate the fact that that's become such a common term.
I know.
But it is true. So I was going to ask you what you do outside of modeling, but you kind of just answered.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you a different question.
Okay.
If you weren't modeling, what would you be doing?
Okay, so we asked that on my podcast too.
Okay.
So that's interesting. So the reason I studied political science and French is because I wanted to work for the government in Canada in some sort of like a communication aspect. So I kind of was... My plan was to work for the provincial government in Ontario. Okay. Which is, Ontario is the province that Toronto's in, for anyone who doesn't know. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to work on, like, media for non-partisan campaigns. Because I'm not super interested in partisan politics, because the major parties in Canada is, like, Conservative and Liberal, which is, like, Republican, Democrat, but, like, not to that extreme. Okay. Most people are pretty centrist in Canada. But, I'm just not really interested in partisan politics. I think there's a lot of, like, informational campaigns that come out that are a lot more effective and, like, informing and educating people, and so I was more interested in doing like the media communication for that stuff, and that's really what I wanted to do. And in Canada, speaking French, if you work for the government, is like a huge asset. I also just love French, so that's why I took it. But yeah, that's what I'm hoping to do. I wanted to like kind of facilitate those campaigns on a provincial level. That was what I really wanted to do.
All right, cool. Do you reckon you'll do that after like?
No.
Everyone's modeling has a longevity.
Yeah. No, because then I realized it's still working for the government, and I think like the more research that I do and the more like I become involved in things politically, the more I realize like the government maybe not be where it's at. Like they may not be getting anything done really. Whereas I notice media lately has had such an effect on people, and that informs people, that affects people, that makes people want to know what's going on, that makes people want to get out there and do something and vote. I think that creates more, not that voting is like the epitome of,
Yeah, but that's the tool.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just saying it gives people tools. I think media gives more people tools than the government has been doing lately. Yeah. And so I realized that now my kind of perspective on things has changed, and it's less about the government, although there is of course importance to that, but I've been more interested on being involved in like a political media level.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Mm-hmm. So it's influencing it but not being part of the system that it governs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. I have issues with the system, I think.
You'd be hard pressed to find someone who doesn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't work. All right, cool. So, in terms of the industry that you do work in, what would you say was the best piece of advice that was given to you, maybe when you're starting up, or even now that you're into your career by several years? Maybe the best piece of advice at either point, or in general.
Even when I first started, and this is still the best advice I've ever gotten, my mother agent I have two in Toronto, like. Two agents at the same agency, but my mother agent, Cynthia Cully, who owns Spot 6 Management in Toronto, which is my mother agent, she told me, just don't compare yourself to other people.
Right.
Like, it's not worth it. You guys are all different. Not only are you different in like size and shape and color and whatever, but also just like your skill as a model. Like, some models are really good at e-com, other models are really good at campaign. You know, there's just no point in comparing yourself to other models because everyone's experience and journey is wildly different.
How long ago did she say this to you?
She probably said it like 6 years ago.
See,
like a long time ago.
That's the thing, because like, if I think about sometimes what sort of trends in and out of social media, in terms of like what comes on my YouTube page or Facebook feed.
Yeah.
Mental wellness comes in every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
It's nice to know that someone back then.
Yeah.
But this is 6 years ago, sort of the infancy of social media.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That they were still thinking about that then.
Yeah. But it's
Right.
because it's intrinsic in us as models, I think, right? Because it's the basis of our job is to just be judged.
Yeah.
So we are so used to it, and it's really easy to compare yourself. And if you cast for a job and then you see the girl that gets it, and you're like, oh shit, like she has this and that I don't have. Once you remove that, like totally remove that from the equation, it becomes so much easier. You just go, you do your casting, you don't even think about it after. Like it's not, what's done is done. There's no point. And she's so right, and that resonates with me even now. Like, there's just no point in comparing yourself to other people. Everyone is so different. And especially, like, it's so easy, when you don't get a job to think about, there's a million reasons why they didn't choose you. It's not because they don't think it. I mean, it may be, but there's so many reasons other than, oh, you're not a good model, or you're not pretty, or you're fat, or whatever the hell, like, these crazy people could be thinking. It could be so many other things than that, so it's just not even worth thinking about it. Like, you just go and you do your best and you leave, and that's it. And that's like the best advice that I've ever gotten.
Wow.
Yeah, she's a very smart woman.
Very.
Yeah.
Because mental wellness is something that needs to be kept at the forefront with any job, actually.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
Because people sometimes think, okay, this is the job and that's what you're going to do, and they leave the people behind.
Yeah.
This happens in every field.
Right.
But it's obviously more prevalent here because you're being judged purely on your image.
Right.
And people will, especially being people of color.
Right.
I experience this as well as a photographer.
I'm sure you do.
If I'm reaching out, like for the longest time, I kept my account anonymous as to who it was. I have my name.
Yeah.
And anyone who knows an Asian name knows, okay, that's like a Sikh person.
Yeah, yeah.
But there were times I was like, okay, let's just do an experiment. Let's just switch everything anonymous.
Yeah.
And just see the interaction, who gets in touch. I'm like, oh look,
yeah,
it's all changed. And only at the start of this year have I actually switched that up now, because I thought, you know what, I've got enough confidence in my work and it's backlog for about a year.
Yeah.
To say, okay, any preconceived notions you may have, just scroll down.
Yeah.
You'll probably just get blasted straight out the window. And more so, you'll probably see people you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So, like, I'm sure, like, if you're testing with someone new and you've seen someone else who's tested with them, I hope that you get in touch and say, is this person a creep?
Oh, always. Yeah. Always. Yeah.
Yeah, so that was just something, that was just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I totally know what you mean.
Cool. So, on the flip side of that question, what was the worst piece of advice that you've been given or have seen being given out to others?
Yeah. To lie.
Oh.
Like, when agencies ask you to lie about things, I just think, like, okay, there are certain instances where, and you'll hear this, and very successful people do this too, like, a little bullshit goes a long way. Like, if you've never done e-com before, you might not want to say that. You might be like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I can understand that, because sometimes you just need to do that to get your foot in the door, and then you can be great at it.
Yeah.
And like, there's little white lies and things that I can understand if an agency maybe tells you to do that. But I don't like it when agencies ask me to lie about my age or my height or things like that.
Yeah.
Those things are so natural to me, and I have no poker face. Like, I'm really bad at lying. So, and I just think that that's wrong. Like, I'm 27 and you want me to say that I'm 23. Like, if they don't want to work with me because they think I'm old, first of all, I know that I don't look old. So
I was going to say, it's an image-based industry. So just, you can guess how old I am by how, like, just judge me on how old I look.
Exactly. Yeah. But even if, you know what I mean? It's just like, that's just fucked up. To do, you know what I mean? You're gonna ask me to lie. Like, what if I then need to fly somewhere with that client? They're gonna see my passport. Then that's gonna become an awkward thing. Yeah. Why not just tell the truth? you know? And like, if it's especially like, it's something that I'm not ashamed of. I'm not ashamed that I'm 27. Like so why should I lie about that? You know, if a client wants to work with a younger girl, then they can work with a younger girl. Then don't send me, you know?
Exactly. But
like,
it shouldn't really matter because
it shouldn't
it's
at all.
not something which affects the image.
Right.
Like from a photographer's point of view.
Exactly.
Like, I know people who, you know, are much younger in age but look older than their years.
Or they photograph older, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm just like, well, okay, I know it's just how it is. It's one of those complicated things which, yeah, you just need to be wary of.
Yeah, and I just don't like being asked to like not tell the truth. Like,
yeah,
you know,
someone knows someone who knows the actual truth.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just not worth it. Like that lying is never the answer, man. Like those kind of lies, you know? Like I just don't like that. And I think that's the worst advice ever. You should always live in your truth. You should be like, and you know what? Like I like it when I'm like, hey, I'm 27 and someone's like, oh, you look great. Like, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I friggin' work hard to try to look whatever. Like, and I take that as a compliment. And I'm like, I mean, there's obviously a certain point where that's a little ageist too, because like,
it's like, what should a 27-year-old look like?
And what is old? Like, whatever. Like, that's all relative, right?
Being like in your teens and thinking that in the 20s.
Oh my God.
Everything figured out.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I remember, like, my brother's 8 years older than me. Right. And I remember, like, being younger and when he was, like, in his 20s being just like, oh my God, like, I can't wait to be your age and, like, do all these cool things and not have to ask to go out and like just live life, you know?
Yeah.
And now I'm like, oh my God, bills.
Yep. That's what I'm discovering because I've been here like a year and I didn't live out for uni or anything like that.
Oh, okay.
So this was like the first moving out experience.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, like yeah, bills are a thing.
Yeah, it's like a real thing. We gotta like save for and they come out every month and it sucks. But honestly, that's the worst advice I've ever gotten. I just think living in your truth now more than ever is so important, and just lying about any part of yourself, I just don't think it's worth it.
Especially as someone who may be on social media.
Right. Well, that's what my initial thought was. Whenever I was like, I literally put my age up for my birthday every year.
Yeah.
I'm like, thanks for wishing me happy 27th or whatever, you know? Like, I don't see the point in lying. That's the worst advice.
All right, cool. So, before I ask you what you're going to be doing next, so you're currently here for the week.
Yes, just a week.
What are you doing while you're here?
While I'm here,
If you're allowed to say.
I am, yeah. So I haven't been in London for over a year, probably almost 2 years. I haven't been here. No, a year and a half probably that I haven't been here. And even in that sort of beginning part of 2016 when I was here for, I think I came in like March once or something. I wasn't living here. I just came like for one-off jobs. And so because I haven't been here so long and now that I'm kind of based in New York, it's kind of still worth it for me to come here and see clients and for campaigns or money jobs, or even if it's for e-com, if someone's going to book me like block off time, then that might be worth it because there are times when like New York is not as busy or whatever. And so I'm here doing castings, and then also I had 2 days of work with one of my favorite clients here, which is Oasis Fashion, that I used to work with all the time when I lived here. So
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so jumping back into slightly deeper questions because I realized I just got this order completely wrong. Bear with me, guys. It's the second one.
No worries. You're doing great.
So, what would you say has been your best failure?
Okay, so this does not have to do with modeling.
All right, perfect.
But it really launched me into modeling. So I applied for my master's when I graduated from my second degree. Mm-hmm. I applied for a master's in labor policy at my labor studies, at my same university, McMaster University in Canada. And they only took 10 people for this program. And I tried to like do my due diligence. Like I worked really hard. I tried to get good grades. And I think my grades were just where they needed to be. Yeah. And I went and like met the professors and I met the director of the program. I had friends in the program. Like I thought, I had an in, like I was going to be fine. Yeah. And then I didn't get in. And I was like, oh, holy shit. Like, what am I going to do? What is my life? And like in Canada, college and university are different. Okay. So I applied to a bunch of colleges, just like more applied, more specific programs, less theory-based, more applied knowledge. Okay. And so I applied to a bunch of college programs for like postgraduate certificates, which is just, more focused study. And you have to have a degree from a university to apply to those programs. So I did, and I got into all those programs, but a lot of those, like, it's the kind of thing where like most people get in. So it wasn't like really my plan. And that's not to diminish that at all. They're all really great programs, but it just wasn't what I wanted, like the things that I applied for. And so when I didn't get in, I'm not quite sure like I've ever felt that disappointed in myself ever in my life. Like I was with a guy that I was dating at the time. Luckily, he was very supportive, and my parents were super supportive. And because I was just like crying nonstop, like I was like, shit, like this is literally my life plan. What the hell am I gonna do? And I just felt like I'd be settling if I went into one of those other programs that I just wasn't really into. Yeah. And so I was still modeling on the side, and then I met my agent here, Lenny from Lenny's Models, and she was like, as soon as she met me, she was like, I really think that you should come to London. Like, I really want you to come to London.
How did you meet Lenny then?
They did a casting at my agency in Toronto.
Right.
Yeah.
I see.
So I met her, and then I was like, you know what? I might as well just fucking do it. Yeah. Because if I was doing my master's, there's no way I'd be able to go spend 3 months in London, right?
Of course not.
But now that that's not an option, and I kind of don't know what I'm doing with my life, maybe I should just give it a try.
Yeah.
And then I did. And then when I came here, I didn't really work that much, but it kind of just like launched me into this like, okay, maybe modeling can be like a full-time thing.
Yeah.
So that definitely was my greatest failure. But I think like so many great things come out of you being at rock bottom because you have nowhere else to go but up from there. So yeah, it was like my greatest failure, but was like what I needed to happen in my life.
Absolutely, because it just by chance you met an agent and it gave you the opportunity of time.
Right.
That's exactly what it gave you.
Exactly.
All right, cool. So what's next for you?
Well, I just got engaged.
Congratulations.
Thanks. So a lot of my life now is us like trying to find a house and maybe planning a wedding and that kind of stuff. But because you know, for me, relationships are very important. Like I'm very close with my family. I'm super close with a lot of my friends, and you know, to me, like my fiance is the greatest person in the whole world. Like, so he's so important to my life. Mm-hmm. So that's like kind of what we're focusing on right now. But in terms of work, I want to keep modeling for as long as I can, even though I'm going to live in New York and he's going to live in Toronto. Okay. You know, a lot of people in our industry are married but live in separate cities because...
And it's not exactly
that's just our job. Yeah, and it's an hour. And I go home all the time for work, so it's fine. So I want to keep modeling for as long as possible, but I want to really dive more into a lot more activism and a lot more of the other stuff that I'm doing, whether it's Model Alliance related, research related, and just like I really want to start working on my YouTube and just building my brand as much as possible, and just making sure that I build it the right way. Okay. Like when I first started on YouTube and blogging and stuff, like I told you, I started doing like fashion and makeup stuff because I just thought, you know, that's what girls do. Like, and I am interested in that. Like, whatever, I'll do it. But it wasn't genuine because it wasn't really my primary interest. What I really wanted to do was talk about like intersectional feminism and like trending topics in politics and stuff like that. So now that I feel more knowledgeable about that, and now that I feel like there's actually a place for that in fashion, now I'm like, okay, that's what my brand is. Like, like Live Shiv, whatever, my Instagram, my brand is about like being a woman in fashion, being a woman of color, but like dealing with all these issues that are very political and very like they exist. Yeah, you know? Escape them. No, exactly. So very prevalent is what I wanted to say. So that's kind of what I'm working on now, like, which is kind of also like me figuring out who I am in like this process too.
It is a very
self-discovery.
Yeah. I took the words literally right out.
Yeah, that's kind of what it is. So I'm trying to figure out how to like fit that into my brand and like how I can have that like make a difference, you know, whether it's like, you know, I get tons of messages from brown girls being like, oh my God, like it's so cool to see you places because like we never saw anybody that looked like us. Like that to me, like if I help one girl feel better, that's like my job is done. But there's also so many more things that I want to do. So it's about me now taking those next steps to get to that place, I think.
Yeah, and just on that, I mean, that is a rewarding feeling actually. Cause
much.
I'll see if I get brag on messaging me. So I see a secret photographer, but there was a gentleman who messaged me from Toronto as well, saying like, you know, so nice to see you representing out there.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
It's nice to know that that's having a positive impact elsewhere.
Right.
Like whereas that's not the center of my brand. I just want to be known for just doing commercial work and getting it right.
Yes.
Because there is a
tasteful,
tendency to almost sometimes pigeonhole yourself a little bit.
Right.
If you define yourself as, I'm just the brown guy.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like,
yeah.
It's like, I just want to be the guy.
Right.
Right, that does great work wherever it goes.
Exactly, yeah.
So yeah, that's what I'm working on this year. We have similar kind of career path in terms of what we're trying to do.
Right, exactly.
It's like this, hopefully, should it take off?
Yeah.
I'm
sure it will.
That would be the idea.
Yeah, I think it's just about like always figuring out how to better yourself because I know like there's a lot of girls who are in the same spot as me in terms of where we are in our careers, and they're very content with that, and that's awesome if that's what you want and that makes you happy. But for me, like being in fashion is so rewarding, but it's not enough. Like I always want more, and that's one thing that's great with this industry too, is it pushes you to be so ambitious because you always want to get like a better and better client.
Yes.
And in the same way, which is the same for photographers too, right? But in the same way, where I am now is like having those girls message me made me want to do so much more. Like it made me want to be like, I also want to give you opportunities. I also want to like figure out how I can help shed light on things that will help us in the long run, like help people realize like why they shouldn't judge us, or, maybe for models, like why models aren't stupid, or like who these girls are and stuff like that, So I just want to keep working on anything that'll help me get to like that level of, yeah, she's a model, but she's also this. And, so that's kind of what I'm working on right now.
I'm intrigued. What else do you consume in terms of like podcasts? Like who else do you listen to? If you do, is it like TED Talks that you sort of listen to?
I do like TED Talks a lot. I really love Girl Boss Radio, which is the show that is hosted by Sophia Amoruso, who is she was the founder and CEO of Nasty Gal, which is now owned by Boohoo.
All right.
But so she sold it. But now she owns Girl Boss Media, which is also like a dream of mine, would be like to have my own like media company. But she owns Girl Boss Media, and so they have the podcast, she has a book, and they also do like these amazing conferences twice a year. And I went to one in LA, and it was so inspiring because she had all these amazing women. She had like Superwoman, Lily Singh.
Yes.
She had Lily Singh was there, and just like a bunch of amazing women, and I get really inspired by other women. And her podcast was actually the one that made me want to start mine, because I was listening to it, and she just had so many like everyone from like Gwyneth Paltrow to like Britt Morin, who owns like Brit.co, which is, she started as a blog, but now it's a massive like media machine and things like that. And I just think that those kind of women really inspire me to be like, okay, so we have this power as models, like what can we do? Where do we fit into this like, you can do so many things with being more than a model, like, which is also the name of my podcast. Yep. But yeah, you can fit into many different areas with that, whether it's like you have your own business or you are an activist or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
So listening to those women made me be like, okay, where do I fit in that? Yeah. In whatever my otherness is in terms of like being other than a model, what is that otherness for me? Like,
gotcha.
So, and I think for me, that's like me sort of like being an activist in media kind of thing, and like helping spread messages and educating people, and you know what I mean? So,
that was a great answer.
Thanks. So Girl Boss Radio, I really like. There's a couple other ones. I always kind of, I liked Serial, which is the one about, the guy who was arrested for this girl's murder like 15 years ago, but there's so much proof showing that he potentially couldn't have done it. Okay. It's a case from Baltimore. It's super popular, but every episode was this woman basically who was doing the detective work, who runs
like
the
a real
podcast.
life case or like fiction?
It's real.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and every episode was basically kind of her conversations with him in prison over the phone. You should listen to it. It's super addictive. And then also it was also conversations between her and people that were involved in the case, and it was super cool. That was the one that really first got me onto podcasts.
Whoa, that's like
you
a
should
live
listen to it.
Mystery.
Oh my god, it was crazy and scary to listen to. And then I always try to look for motivational ones. Like I really like and educational ones. Like I really like Freakonomics. Like I could listen to Freakonomics. Mm-hmm. And just feel like, holy shit, I just learned about a whole new like topic that I never knew about before. Like I love those ones, and I love anything motivational.
I'm
like
gonna be taking notes on these because these are ones I've not heard of.
Yeah, you should listen to them. So good.
Down.
Most things on NPR, I think, or WNYC, like Two Dope Queens. I love Two Dope Queens. It's Phoebe Robinson and Jessica Williams. They're both.
I feel like I'm living in the wrong city.
Oh, yeah. This is kind of probably like really NYC stuff, but yeah. And they are both they're both actors, comedians, activists, whatever. And they're just so fucking funny. Like I went to a live recording of one of theirs and I was dying the whole time. They're so funny and they're so smart in it. They're such smart, intelligent women. And I love listening to theirs as well. It's really funny. So yeah, a wider range of things.
Awesome.
There's also Guys I Fucked. That's a good one.
Yes, I've heard of
Yeah,
that.
that
Because
one.
they did the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yeah,
and,
so funny.
I was listening to it on the way up and down from a job which is slightly further north here, and I was in stitches.
It's
They were
so funny.
They were just like, all right, cool. Here it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I love that. And I think it's so nice finally that women are like, we don't need to censor ourselves anymore. I'm just going to say what I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have a problem, you can put that in your pipe and smoke it. Like, that's great for you. You know, like.
No. That is just one of the stereotypes which is thankfully is dying with generations.
Yeah.
Which does need to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Because especially like as a guy, you don't want the stereotypical like says nothing. You know, obviously I don't think this.
Yeah.
Right. But there is a stereotype of there, especially in the Asian community, of like you know, just stays at home, makes fun of rupees all day.
Right.
And it's like no, who wants this?
No, and yeah, there are, and like again, I feel like when you empower women, you have to empower all women, and
Yes.
there are those women that are totally fine with being a housewife or a homemaker or whatever, and that is not to diminish that, because like that's super difficult as well.
Yes.
If that's what you want to do, I have zero problem with that. I'm just saying for me, I wouldn't be happy in that context, you know? But yeah, that's also one of the reasons why I think I fell so hard in love with my fiance, because I have so many opinions on things, and he just like lets me talk and listens, and we have great conversations, and he questions things that he doesn't agree with, but he doesn't do it in an argumentative fashion, and he doesn't, like, it never crosses his mind that like, oh, why does she think that she has the right to have an opinion? Like that never crosses his mind. He just is so into the fact that I care about shit, you know? And that was really nice, and that was not what I had experienced before, so.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure he will love this episode.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so lastly, where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram at liveshiv, at LIVESHIV. People forget the first, the only E. People forget the E.
Right.
It's LIVESHIV. And my YouTube is the same. YouTube.com/liveshiv. And my blog is liveshiv now, which I will be starting back up. It's a 2018 resolution. Yeah, those three places are probably the best places to find me.
All right, great. Well, I wish you the best for the rest of the week.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming on this.
Thanks for having me.
No worries. We did it. That was awesome.
Yeah, it was great. You're good. You did a really good job.